I got something big to say. I'm just going to come out and say it, and it's this. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, fill in the blank company here. Throw some Apple in there. Nobody's coming after Linux. Guess what? They all love Linux. They don't want Linux to change at all. Nothing. They want Linux to be exactly as it is today. Why? Why do that? Why don't they want to extinguish it? You know, a lot of people always bring up the three E's when it comes to Microsoft. And the answer is this. They make billions of dollars, maybe trillions of dollars off of Linux and Linux's foundation and all the groundwork that's been laid before it. They're able to use and abuse FOSS, FLOSS, and all of the glorious Linux goodies. Because what Linux is, and I think it's just lost on the Linux desktop realm. I think so many people think of Linux as this underdog or something like that. No. That's not what Linux is. Linux is the king. It is the monopoly. It is what people use in data centers. I have 11 different Windows Server certifications. You know what it's good for today? Active Directory. That's about it. Mostly legacy systems or things I absolutely have to run in Linux. Actually, no. When even for Windows servers, I don't even like running applications like I was trying to say, like Unify Controller or something like that. But honestly, it's easier to run it on Linux in like a Docker container or Kubernetes node or whatever it might be. That's not even true. So every data center is ruled by the monopoly, the king, and that is Linux. So stop thinking that it's just going to get put down or extinguished or snuffed out like some people think, because that's not going to happen. Linux is the king. It is the monopoly. It is the thing that rules all of IT. It makes networking go. I mean, heck, I started learning Linux in 2000s, mainly just because of networking. And then you get into the 2010s when it came to telephony and some other devices, all that's based on Linux as well. I had to learn CentOS and all that. And a lot of people look at my stuff and like, oh, well, you've only been using Linux desktop since 2018. And I'm like, yeah, I learned it all so fast. I was able to do everything in it because I already knew all the backend. Everything that you need to do in Linux could be done from a terminal. And that's it. That's the beauty of it. But I'm so sick of people thinking that big tech is out to kill Linux. No. They want to keep everything as it is today. They want Linux not to change. They want everything to be the status quo so they continue to use and abuse Linux for free. The amount of money they save in kernel development, the amount of money they're able to do from all these geniuses in the Linux community is outstanding. And they love it. It's like having a free R&D department that they're able to do everything they ever wanted to do with no cost. So stop this madness that they're going to extinguish Linux, or there's this unfounded thing. It's the fact that Linux desktop has 1% market share that freaks out some Linux users. Yeah, that's true. But it's nothing to really worry about because Linux desktop, frankly, doesn't matter to big tech, and it doesn't matter to Linux's longevity because all of Linux, it's the king. It has the monopoly. All the development is based around server. You're going to have some companies, and guess what? They're closed source. A lot of times that are actually developing Linux desktop and that have had the most strides for Linux adoption. And that's Steam and Valve. That's all closed source. And these people have come in and made Linux desktop really a thing. Because without any games and without Steam all together, Linux desktop doesn't have nearly the adoption it has today. So this unfounded attack on closed source and the unfounded attacks on big tech over the extinction of Linux, or that they're going to go after and kill it, is so stupid. I'm tired of this just being reiterated and just regurgitated in the Linux community. I just want to choke Linux community members because it doesn't make any business sense. Stop with this. Stallman and all the idol worship that you got going on. These people were terrible businessmen. Terrible. They don't know how to market anything. And that's fine. Because they were engineers that came up with brilliant ideas and then they gave it away to the world for free. And there's nothing greater than that. But do not take everything they've said as gospel and stop worshiping them like, hey, this is the way to the newfound world for Linux desktop. No. FLOSS, FOSS, and Linux and open source in general are amazing. But they're not what makes it tick. They're not what makes people come to Linux. The whole purpose of Linux is this server realm, and it is absolutely amazing. That's what most people are just fascinated with. So that's the whole point of this video. Don't be scared of big tech. Don't be scared of closed source. It can't invade Linux. You just gotta be a little more open-minded here, because that closed source will lead to more adoption, even though you may not like some closed source programs. I can't understand the craziness out there, and it's frustrating to me. I love Linux, and I wanted to see it succeed, but I've given up on Linux desktop because the community is just so crazy. They're just too nuts. Like the whole attack on Manjaro doing Vivaldi as a browser. The Vivaldi developers are done great. So what if it's not open source? Who cares? Firefox sucks. I mean, use Firefox so we have alternatives, but I hate it as a browser. I to actually use it, I'm just like, ugh, give me something Chromium. That's terrible. That's blasphemy, but it's the truth. I mean, heck. And to attack some of these developers that have been champions of open source, like Manjaro, for partnering with a closed source software vendor like Vivaldi, is stupid. It's like, when I look at it, this all or nothing approach, it's like these people want to kill Linux. Really, the true threat to the Linux ecosystem is this tribal, crazy, black and white mentality where these people have such closed-minded views. That is what's stifling Linux. That is what could eventually kill Linux, is these people with the no exceptions to the rule mentality, or the, hey, you're a dumb Windows user, what are you doing in my play yard? Get out. You think Windows or Apple users care if a Linux user comes over there? No, they don't. Not at all. And the Linux community has been anything but welcoming to pretty much anything that comes from these two realms, whether it's Mac or Windows. And that's why it's at a 1% market share. And that's probably why it will always be a 1% market share. Unless maybe a closed source company comes in. You got your Chrome OSs of the world that saw a boom. You might have your Steam OS finally take off. But this is all closed source that we're talking about. It has proprietary stuff. It's not even Linux at that point. That's like Android. It's not really Linux. You start adding all these proprietary blobs, I mean, it gets away from it. That's why the Linux community just needs to be more welcoming. Stop being so damn frigid and just be like, everything has to be like this. You know, Stallman once said, dude, the guy ate frickin' toenails on stage somewhere. Stop worshiping this guy. I mean, what else is there to say? Nothing. You know I'm right. Leave me a comment. Tap that dislike button, and I'll see you in the next video because you're on YouTube, and they'll just keep serving these things up. I don't understand how that works. But anyhow, it'll be more Linux videos.